Splitting an atom was the theory in the 1940s, but through hard work and determination it became reality, and also created the world's deadliest weapon, the atomic bomb, blowing people into new kind of warfare.
The atomic bomb's invention was a turning point in warfare that still impacts us today. It explored new elements like plutonium and was the first real encounter with atomic energy. The brilliant exchange of ideas among scientists led to the most terrifying weapon of its age.
One of the most well-known contributors to the atomic bomb, Robert Oppenheimer was born in 1904. As a child, he loved to read and write. Throughout schooling, Robert studied chemistry and physics. His studies took place in some of the finest universities in Germany and Britain. Robert graduated from Harvard in 1925.
Fission is splitting something. In this case, it is splitting an atom. Fission weapons like the atomic bomb are created using uranium-235, or U-235, and plutonium-239, or Pu-239. Critical mass is caused when two components of U-235 are fired at each other, causing a very, very small reaction. This causes standard charges to compress the Pu-239 until it goes supercritical, which releases energy. That is how the atomic bomb's devastating power was created.
The Manhattan Project was a secret organization created to build the first atomic bomb during World War II. The Manhattan Project was a code name for the atomic bomb. The main assembly plant was at Los Alamos, Mexico. Nearly $2 billion was spent on research and development of the atomic bomb. 120,000 Americans were employed for the Manhattan Project. In order to keep the Japanese and the Germans from finding out, and it was impossible to keep 120,000 people quiet, only a select few lead scientists knew about the project.
While building the atomic bomb, the scientists said they were building an electric rocket. They called it the Gadget just so no one would find out what they were building. While building, the scientists had to stay in close quarters. The young scientists stayed in bunk beds in dorms, and there were very few bathrooms. There was a lot of mud because the snow had just melted.
The first atomic bomb test took place in Los Alamos, New Mexico. The test took place on the 16th of July, 1945. The test bomb was not dropped from a plane, but instead it was dropped from a 100-foot tall metal tower. The force of the explosion was equal to 15,000 to 20,000 pieces of TNT blowing up at one time. The lighting around the area changed from dim to 7 suns worth of daylight. This spread to at least 20 miles away. A sphere of fire formed for several seconds, then turned into a mushroom cloud and continued to rise for 10,000 feet before disappearing. The light could be seen from 180 miles away. Soon after, a mushroom cloud formed from ash and smoke. A crater with a 1,200-foot diameter was formed. Radioactive material in small quantities was found 120 miles away. The nuclear age had started.
To drop the bomb, the pilot Paul Tibbets and his crew flew a plane called the Enola Gay. The Enola Gay was a Boeing B-29 Superfortress, which was used to drop bombs during World War II. There were actually 2 times that America used the atomic bomb. The first one on Hiroshima, Japan, and the second one on Nagasaki, Japan. On Hiroshima, the bomb was dropped at 8:15 a.m. and detonated 43 seconds after it was dropped. The explosion was 110 yards in diameter. 4 square miles of Hiroshima were destroyed when the bomb was dropped, and 71,000 Japanese were killed by it. The bomb also caused radiation sickness, which led to even more death.
An estimate of 130,000 people died at Hiroshima from the bomb and 70,000 people at Nagasaki. Most people at Ground Zero died on impact due to high radiation dosages or on the first day from the radiation. More people died within 3 days, some at 4 days, and 90% of people died 3 weeks after the explosion from the radiation poisoning. Other deaths were from burns and/or blast trauma. After effects of the bomb include cancer in the lungs, breast, and thyroid. Another after effect of the bomb was keloids, which is an overgrowth of scar tissue on the wound surface of a thermal burn during the reparative stage. This forms an irregularly shaped protrusion in the shape of a crab leg. Leukemia, which is a cancer tumor, was also found. We can all agree that the after effects of the bomb were devastating. After the bombing, Hiroshima's population went down to roughly 83,000 people. But it went back up to 169,000 February 1946. The sudden population spike caused shortages of food and shelter. Most of the atomic bomb survivors faced a risk of death from starvation and exposure if something hadn't been done. On December 1945, a War Victims Council was established to keep track of the distributions of supplies. The councils also dealt with care of orphans, community bathhouses, and use of warehouses in places near Hiroshima for community houses. When food percentages dropped, farms around the area donated supplies of rice to be distributed amongst Hiroshima. This therefore helped Hiroshima to the next step of recovery and building of their country once again.
To build a bomb, Germany tried to use a technique called heavy water. Heavy water is the same as water, H2O, but the nucleus contains 1 proton and 1 neutron instead of a normal 1 proton and 0 neutrons. It is an isotope called deuterium, and it is deuterium oxide, D2O. They thought it was the key to unlocking atomic energy. The reason the Germans were making so much of it is because they thought it was a way to enrich uranium and convert it into a weaponizable plutonium. Nagasaki was chosen to be bombed as the 4th choice. It was a large shipbuilding city and had a big military port. Nagasaki had already been bombed 5 times, so it was not a preferred target. The plane that dropped the bomb, nicknamed the Fat Man, on Nagasaki was a B-29 Superfortress, just like the Enola Gay. Its name was Boxcar. The plane ride in the Boxcar was a little rougher than the Enola Gays. One of the fuel pumps had stopped working and 800 gallons of fuel had to sit unused. The bomb Fat Man was built differently than the Little Boy, which was dropped on Hiroshima. The way it worked was there were 64 detonators that pushed pieces of plutonium together to create critical mass. It was 10,000 pounds and 10 feet 8 inches long. One of the targets was completely covered in clouds, so they couldn't drop Fat Man there. Nagasaki was next on the list. It destroyed more than 2 miles of the city.
However, Nagasaki's reconstruction went very slowly. It wasn't until the later half of 1946 that simple emergency buildings were being built in various communities. The housing fell short of the regular housing needs, which people desperately needed at the time. In 1950, applicants for corporate dwellings exceeded availability by almost 100 times. In order to fix this, the national government in November 1945 adopted a war disaster reconstruction plan for the rebuilding of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and surrounding countries. The idea Nagasaki had created to begin reconstruction was to abandon old war industries and focusing rather on revival of foreign trade, shipbuilding, and fishing industries. This helped Nagasaki in the long run.
New elements and creations. Also, scientists were non-stop exploring the reaction speed of the initiation of the atomic bomb to the actual explosion.
The atomic bomb also deals with encounter because many people encountered the destruction of the bomb. Also, scientists encountered great discoveries in the field of science. The atomic bomb also deals with exchange because the exchange between scientists changed our world forever.
I want